teach you how to play Vanguard. So, you can see that there is a grade 0 here. It has an attack power down here, shield power here. Grade 1s and 0s have this ability to boost, and other abilities that if you are American you read here, Japanese you can read here. Your choice, the name of it, and then normally you want to pick a unit that has this card effect for your starting Vanguard. So, normally they'd start face down in a regular. We're online, so we're going to teach you the way we play in an online match. So, you play here. You the field setup is the same. Your opponent has the same field setup you do. They have 50 card decks, 16 triggers, 13 grade 1s, 12 grade 2s, and 8 grade 3s. That's my preferred. So, you shuffle the deck up a bit after you get your grade 1 out. For me, the button's here. You pick up 5 cards from the top of your deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, once and only once, you take cards from your hand and you send them back to the deck and you shuffle. You can only do this once, and you can send as many cards as you want from your hand back. You can only do that once, though. 2-player and 3-player matches are different stories, though. So, this is the hand I'm going to start with. So, and at the beginning of every turn, first turn, second turn, no matter what turn it is, you draw 1 card. Now you do what's called riding. You ride the Vanguard. So you pick a card that has grade 1, 2, 3, or 1 grade higher than the Vanguard you started with, and you put it on top of the Vanguard that you already have. This one's skill, the reason I said to use this one is because of the fact that its ability, when card is a Royal Paladin, that's the clan it's in. This is also a Royal Paladin. Therefore, the Royal Paladin rode the Royal Paladin and allowed this Royal Paladin to move to the rear guard. So, now, let's say I'm going second. If I'm going second, I can rest my units by turning them sideways. The grade 1s and 0s have the little symbol once again, and they give power to the units in front of them by resting them. So you take your grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, Vanguard, whatever, and attack. When the Vanguard attacks, not when the rear guards attack, but when the Vanguard attacks, you check the top card for a trigger. If there's a trigger there, you give power and you distribute effects otherwise. This trigger is then added to your hand. Now, you would end your turn. All effects given or all power given goes away. Your opponent attacks. When your opponent attacks, you take damage. The form of damage is once there's 6 damage here in the damage zone, the game is over. But let's say they deal 1 damage to us. This card goes here. Now let's say it's our turn. We stand all of our units. So by resting them, we attack. By standing them, we can use them again. And we draw 1 card. Now, we choose 1 grade 2 from our hand to ride. Now, grade 2 sometimes have abilities or other things that are activated at this point. But this one didn't. So now, because we don't have any... Now, if I wanted to, I can call cards that are equal or greater unit, or greater in equal or less in grade from my Vanguard to the rear guard circle. So we'll call Gringo Seeker. He is a grade 1, so I put him in the back row to boost a grade 2 or 3 later. So now, we'll enter the battle phase. Our Vanguard attacks with support from File. Let's say they guard for a 10,000. They have a 7,000 Vanguard. They guard with 10,000. So, when you guard, you take a card from your hand and you move it to this circle. Then this shield power on the side here is added to the power of your Vanguard and counts as your shield. So let's say the shield on the side of theirs is a 10,000 shield, like on File. So, with my drive check, if I were to pull a trigger, like so, I give power to my Vanguard, and now I can now the attack is strong enough to go through. But if you realize on this trigger, it says critical trigger here, and it's yellow. With critical triggers like this, when you pull a critical trigger and your opponent takes the damage, that means that they're going to be taking 2 damage to sending 2 cards from the top of their deck to the damage zone instead of 1. Or let's say that you pull 2 triggers, but we haven't gotten to that yet. And now I'd end my turn. All power effects go away. Now, let's say they pull a critical trigger. That puts me at 2 damage. Now let's say they attack, I guard with a rear guard, I guard with this. My turn. I stand, and I draw 1 card. Now, I can choose a grade 3 from my hand, and ride the vanguard. Now, Alfred's skill, what is called a counterblast, that's when you choose 2 cards from, now, because it says counterblast 2, we're going to flip 2 cards over. But normally, sometimes it's 1, 3, 4, or 5. So this one requires them to have 2 Seekers in the name, but all my cards are Seekers, so we're not going to worry. Counterblast 2, and his skill, I can look at my deck and call 1 Seeker card from among them. So we're going to choose Blaster Blade Seeker. We call Blaster Blade Seeker. Now Blaster Blade we shuffle the deck, of course. Now we counterblast 1 for Blaster Blade Seeker's ability. And we choose one of my opponent's grade 2 or greater rear guards and retire. When you retire, the card leaves the field. So let's just put that back because I didn't retire that. The only way you can retire cards on your side of the field is by replacing them with another card. We call Gildas from our hand. As I said, he is a grade 2, and my Vanguard is a grade 3. So now, at this point, we have our battle formation set and can attack. Since we went second, our opponent is already a grade 3. So, what we can do is we can have Alfred attack, or we can, normally, if you run what's called stand triggers, you can attack with your rear guards first. Now let's say they take the 1 damage from this. Gringle Seeker's effect. Choose 1 card from my hand, send it to the bottom of the deck. Now, I unflip 1, choose 1 card from my damage zone, turn it face up, and I draw 1 card. Now, Alfred attacks with support from file for 16,000. When your grade 3 Vanguard attacks, only the Vanguard, you do what's called a twin drive. So instead of checking just 1, we check for a second one. And nothing was there. So we'll have Gildas attack a rear guard. Considering that there is no rear, that our opponent doesn't have any, we're just going to say that there was a grade 2 rear guard that just got, retired. So now we end our turn. All power bonuses go away, and everything's back to normal. Now, let's say my opponent goes for a stronger card than mine, but I don't have enough cards in my hand to guard it with enough shield. What I do is I play this card. This card's ability is when I guard with it, I can discard 1 card from my hand, and the attack is nullified. Next, let's say there's another attack. We'll have Blaster Blade Seeker intercept. Now, we're not keeping track of our opponent's damage because I want to show you all of the things that can be played in this game. So let's say they get 1 damage through. So now, it's my turn again. I stand and I draw. Now, once you have a grade 3, you can either discard a card, you can now ride to a new grade 3, or sometimes even to a grade 4, but that's in very special circumstances. We're going to show you what happens when you Legion. So let's say I ride to this card right here. Now this card's effect is called Legion. The act of Legion is choosing 4 cards from this graveyard, or drop zone as it's called, and sending them back to the deck. Since there was only 4 there, I sent all 4 back. Now, I search my deck for the specified card, Blaster Blade Seeker, and I send it on top of the Vanguard zone into Legion. Now there are 2 cards in the Vanguard zone, and on my turn, this is accounting as a 20,000 powered Vanguard. File skill. I move it into this what's called the Soul, what's underneath the Vanguard, and now I call another Blaster Blade Seeker out from my deck. This is also known as a superior call. Now, Gildas' ability. When my Vanguard Legions, I can counterblast one and call one Seeker unit from my deck. And that's how I get Scenic out. Now, shuffle my deck, of course. Normally, after all of these, you would have shuffled, but because of the fact that you did them all one after another, there was no need to shuffle. You were going right back into the deck. So let's make sure that's thoroughly shuffled. Now, your Vanguard can attack for 20,000, but you want to count in all of the abilities on your field. With Grangle's skill, I can use his skill to unflip a damage and get cards that I can discard for Thing Saver's ability. This card's name is Thing Saver Dragon in America, Sing Saver in Japan. So we'll attack with Blaster Blade first. It would help from the battle phase. Gringle gives power to Blaster Blade. Now, for the sake of being able to show you everything, let's say his attack hits. You know, the whole drill. To bottom of the deck, draw one card. Boom. Now, where the fun begins, I attack with my Vanguard. If you notice, he gains 2,000 power from his skill down here. When he attacks a Vanguard, he gains 2,000 power. And then also, because they're in Legion, his power is added to his power. So an equal of 20,000, and after Sing Saver's skill, he gains another 2,000 power. Now, when the attack, let's say my opponent guards with a Nullify guard, like this. I check my Twin Drive first and second. Heal trigger. Now let's say my opponent has 3 damage at this point. I'll give power to Gildas because my Vanguard can't attack anymore. And I choose one card from my damage zone and move it to my drop zone. Now, where the fun begins, I can use Seeker, Sing Saver's Dragon's ability. I counterblast 2 damage, and then I choose 3 cards from what I called the Soul earlier, and do what's called a Soul Blast. That's taking cards from underneath my Vanguard and sending them to the drop zone. Now I have to discard 2 cards as well. And now, I search my deck for Sing Saver Dragon and write it. The next step of this ability is I choose one Blaster Blade Seeker for my soul and I Legion with it. This is considered a top tier deck, and this ability has won many games. So Sing Saver attacks one more time. Again. And now I get to do a second Twin Drive. Let's say my opponent nullifies this one again. Twin Drive first, and let's say the second. Now, these are cards in my hand that I can use for guard. But now we're gonna have Gildas attack for 21,000 at my opponent's Vanguard. That ends my turn. At the end of my turn, all of the power bonuses go away, and everything's back to normal. And when my opponent attacks, they're attacking Sing Saver, so the power of my Vanguard is only 11,000. So my opponent attacks with their Vanguard. I nullify it. My opponent attacks with the rear guard, and let's say they pulled a critical trigger. Now I have to guard against attack as well, because now I can take their last damage and just take it to the damage zone. Now, the last step of this tutorial is to show you stride. I stand, I draw. In order to stride, you need to discard cards that are equal or greater to grade 3. So, this card's ability, when I'm trying to pay the cost of stride, he gains grade +2. So on top of this grade 1, he is now counted as a grade 3 for discarding for stride. I discard. I look at my stride deck. Now I have Blade. I have Soaring Divine Knight Ult. And now there's also Divine Sacred Dragon, Saint Blow Dragon. Now, with Alt Miles skill and Sacred Dragon skill, I have to have one face up in the G zone already at this point. And because I don't have enough counter blast for Sing Savers, and I'm not going to count on Blaster Blade Seeker hitting this turn, I can't use Sing Saver's ability. So I'm going to go with the second best thing, and stride the Vanguard. Now, the card underneath the vanguard, what used to be my vanguard, is now a heart card. Gablade's full name now is Vogue Sacred Knight Gablade Seeker Sing Saver Dragon. So he still has Seeker in his name, and he gains the power of the unit as well. So this card is the only heart card, and becomes 11,000, and that's a 37,000 power. It's a 26,000 power vanguard. So now I move on to my attack phase. As I said, attack with one rear guard first, and then attack with your vanguard, and then a rear guard for max use of any stand triggers that can be pulled. So attack for 16,000. Now my vanguard attacks. Grade 4s have one other ability. Let's say my opponent decides not to guard it. They're at 4 damage. I'd check the drive trigger. 1, check 2, and now a grade 4 vanguard special skill, the 3rd check. That is stride. I attack with my rear guard, and I end my turn. My opponent's at 5 damage. Now when I end my turn, the stride goes back to the stride deck and is face up, which means I can't use it now. And my vanguard is rested. So now my opponent attacks. I nullify the attack with this card. Send this to my drop zone. Now, let's say I take 1 damage from a rear guard attack. Heal trigger. Let's say the card that they pulled was a heal trigger as well. I can give power to my vanguard and recover 1 point of damage. And guard with Seeker Loving Healer. Now, the game is hard to understand, and if you need to, watch this video multiple times if you really are into it. You stand, you draw. I can now ride again. Even though my vanguard is already in Legion, I can ride. And now I perform Legion 1 more time. Picking 4 cards from my deck. 1. Let's pick the heal trigger, because pulling a heal trigger when I need it is great. We need perfect guards, and if we can find Blaster Blade Seeker, we're going to send him back to the deck as well. Blaster Blade Seeker obviously is going to go to Legion with my vanguard, but I need to send it to my deck before I can, so that I can get full max usage out of his ability. Open up my deck. The only reason I need to do that is because of the fact that I can only Legion from my deck in this skill. Otherwise, in the actual game, you can send your cards straight just to the Vanguard circle and not worry about having to pull all of the, shuffle your deck, open it up your deck, and go through all of that stuff. Now, calling out Scenic. Now I have enough for Sing Saver's skill. I move to my battle phase. Blaster Blade attacks with support from Gringle. My Vanguard Sing Saver can attack alone. I Twin Drive. First check, and the second check. I got nothing. Now, here's where the ability comes in handy. Counter Blasting 2 more. And why would we ride again, you ask? Well, that yields more possibilities for me to use a skill. Because I rode 1 and sent another back to the deck, I now have 3 cards of Soul Blast, and I have enough cards in my hand to discard as well. Discarding 2 cards, searching my deck, and riding again, Sing Saver Dragon. Now, this is a very complicated deck to play. I've been playing for long enough that I know how to play it. But for a beginner, it's not a bad deck to learn if you play it properly. You can play the basic of it and learn it. So now, Vanguard attacks again. Critical trigger. We give power to Gildas, and we'll give the critical to our Vanguard. And the second check, heal trigger. Power to Gildas. Now my opponent takes the damage, and I win. That's the game. Hope you all like it.